Steam loves free games. And Steam loves free games mostly because users love free games. A quick check this morning showed that about 1/5 of users in-game on Steam were playing free titles. And what's not to love? At the rate new games are being added, you could play 5 brand new free games per day for the rest of your life and you'd never run out. That's great for the frugal Steam user. But I've been noticing a trend for a long while now, reaching a point where there are dozens of these upcoming minimalist hidden cat games. It seems you can rarely open the front page these days without seeing one of them either in popular, upcoming, or new and trending. And if you look a little closer, not just limiting yourself to cats, you'll see just how many of these games are flooding the store. There are now multiple developers solely committed to doing this, capitalizing on how simple this type of game is to produce, making use of monochrome art usually with just one screen, and a rather homogenized form of marketing that they're all kind of aping from one another. And as it continues to build, I felt it was something that was worth talking about. And hey, as an added bit of fun as we're working through things here, I'm gonna hide 10 Two Left Thumbs logos throughout this video. You'll have to let me know how many you were able to find by the time this video wraps up. When uploading and submitting a free game on Steam as a developer, you still have to pay that $100 fee. The fact that you still have to pay to share a free game is exactly the reason I think Steam has never cracked down on the prologue trick from the last few years. In the prologue trick, rather than uploading a demo to your game's page, you pay to create an entirely new page for a standalone version, which is more often than not just the demo of your game. Why would they put a stop to it when it's effectively free money for them? Steam gets $100, there's no real downsides for the user, so it's doubtful they're ever really gonna put a stop to that. And it's the same thing here again with these free hidden cat games. Nobody is scamming users, and it's all done comfortably within Steam's own rules and environment. And in a constant arms race for visibility on the Steam storefront, I can't fault anyone for using these systems to their advantage. And while I've been seeing these games pop up here and there for a while, I wasn't aware just how insane it had gotten until February 26th. That was the day we launched William and Sly, and I had been keeping a very close eye on other titles staking out that date, trying to strategize, seeing what sort of competition there might be, finally deciding that would be appropriate. Only for more and more games to continue to pile on after we chose that date, with the final count being 58 games released in that single day, 10 of which were free. Out of 58 total games, 5 were hidden object games, only one of which was paid, and one other one that was about something other than cats, although still using this new trendy minimalist black and white style. Of 58 games, I think only about 7 of them were appearing in the popular upcoming, which only games that have a proven traffic and interest can show up in. It's kind of unknown precisely what those metrics are. But we started seeing games that had just made their store pages appearing alongside our own. As if releasing your game wasn't already tough enough to get noticed, Steam's popular, upcoming, and new and trending sections only have 10 slots each on the front page. Popular upcoming gives you a nice lift ahead of launch, and if things continue to snowball well, you might land on that new and trending. That 1-2 of a final push when releasing your game can make all the difference. 58 games in a single day competing for that spot, with your new indie title now needing to compete against a multitude of these cookie-cutter free games. Out of those 58 releases, only 2 managed to stay on new and trending, and they were 2 of the free cat games. I'll reiterate here, nobody is doing anything wrong, but simply by the nature of how Steam is set up, indie games left and right are being drowned out by these simple quick-fix releases. I wanted to attempt to trace where this trend started and when it eventually caught fire. And as far as I can tell, this started with developer Anatoly Loganovsky. This dev had released a number of paid and free games starting back in 2018. By mid-2019, he had by far his biggest success with his free title, Mushroom Cats, earning thousands of reviews and an overwhelmingly positive rating, with a relatively successful paid sequel coming a year later. Mushroom Cats 2 was his highest performing paid release yet. He continued to make original ideas for a time, but come November 2020, a shift began. In just those last 2 months, he released 5 separate $1 hidden object games in this minimalist style, none of which were actually cat-based. Steam users are habitual in the same way YouTube watchers are. If you watch nothing but food channels, it's unlikely you would ever get recommended this video. And similarly, Steam has its own algorithms. And if users start to follow your account based on something like that, if you continue to offer more of the same, things can really start to build. It's the exact same reason if someone has a hit video on YouTube, they're probably gonna follow it up with many more just like it. Anatoly then made 13 games in 2021, 11 of which were hidden object games. Honestly, I kind of respect it. He found something that was working well for him and continued to sprinkle new original ideas into his release schedule. Things he could put a little bit more time into and experiment with new ideas, while hidden object games kept everything afloat. His game 100 Hidden Birds did pretty well as a few others, but they were all trumped with the release of 100 Hidden Cats in April 2021. He also had his first free release in 2.5 years with 100 Hidden Frogs, which currently has 5,600 overwhelmingly positive reviews. He's slowed down since, presumably after others started copying his style and release strategy, switching gears to making more expensive and more polished titles in the genre alongside his other releases. So the developer I'd largely credit with this trend has already began to move on. But a template now existed. One level with 100 things to find, done in a minimalist art style, offering less than an hour of playtime each. What could be easier to mass produce? These games are so simple, they're advertising having settings as being a game feature. And once you've made one of them, it'll just get easier and easier from there. It's interesting to me that some of the earliest developers to jump on this trend are probably the ones who have done the most interesting things with it. It's taken until now in 2024 for things to really be crushed down into the lowest common denominator. For example, Very Very Little Studio released Find All just 2 months after 100 Hidden Cats. In this one, you're coloring in the black and white photo as you seek things out. It's only $1 and can be completed very quickly. 3 more Find All games were made that all emphasized cats instead. This studio also released Toridori and have a new game, Catbox, coming later this year. So again, they're changing things up, making it distinctly their own, while also cutting their teeth on Steam and building up an audience while they work on those original titles. Same as Anatoly did. By late 2021, as more took notice of the visibility these short and free games could achieve, the more the exploitative side of things started to emerge. Although still, it's more about exploiting Steam than it is the user. I don't really know anything about Lausch Studio. Today is the first time I've ever heard of them. They seem to mostly just produce shovelware for PC and mobile, absolutely cranking out games in the hopes that something sticks. They have hundreds of titles on Steam. For example, in 2018, they released 5 reskins of a memory game in 1 month. This is not a studio taking careful steps to build up to their big passion project. So many of these shovelware games are selling for $25, yet have something like 100 reviews on them, which makes me think something deeper is going on within Steam's systems. Maybe some manipulation through robot reviews, but I'm purely speculating there, and it's kind of off topic. But in late 2021, they released Search All Animals, then releasing 19 more games in that style over the next half a year, and then 12 more since then, and 5 more listed as upcoming. We then had the entire cozy game trend kick off just 2 years ago at the start of 2022. And with these hidden cat games already growing in popularity, I think that overlap of relaxed, casual experiences is when the match finally hit the gas. Many devs are still using it as an opportunity to build a catalog before taking on something original. Evercats made a trilogy of cheap hidden cat games building up to 2 non-hidden object-based cat games. Or Nuke Arts, which after starting in early 2022 have released 6, with 1 more upcoming and an original game on the horizon. They've steered away from doing any free releases and are seemingly trying to keep the games more unique feeling amongst the masses. DevCats came next, and they may have the overall strongest marketing, or perhaps were just the most well-known beforehand, because they are killing it with their hidden cat games, with plenty more to come. even Follow the Fun, a developer that had become quickly recognizable from their I Commissioned a Bee series to then I Commissioned a Cat. Although now that they've seemingly oversaturated the market with their whole I commissioned some blank concept, the recent entries aren't performing so well, cat or otherwise. But these are all developers who had other things on the go, were pre-established, and decided to try their hand at the hidden cat trend. So as recently as 1 year ago, we had about 7 studios consistently releasing hidden cat games, but almost always as a side hustle for their larger projects. 2023 was when we had the emergence of new studios starting out as and never pretending to be anything other than hidden cat devs. The two biggest are easily Travelin' Cats and 100 Cozy Games, with these two devs alone contributing most of the recent hidden cat games. Travelin' Cats have released 2 free and 4 paid games, with tens of thousands of reviews total and nearly 15,000 followers on Steam. The free games get paid DLC, and there's 4 more titles scheduled for this year. They aren't even bothering to make unique capsule art for each game. And 100 Cozy Games, which has already released 6 of these since starting in December, already have 8 more lined up for 2024 so far. These are the ones that had the most mass-produced feel to them, and are when I really started to notice that this had gone beyond just a few developers playing around with a nice, easy, cozy concept. It's kind of hard to ignore when their first game released the same day as the William and Sly Classic Collection, our own free title that we used as an opportunity to advertise the full paid release. I've got nothing against free games, they absolutely have their place. I'm thrilled that we're able to offer those 2 games for free to users. And they are now the same devs who released 2 of these cat games the same day as William and Sly's paid sequel. Do I suddenly have an indie game nemesis? And none of this accounts for the dozens of developers out there releasing just 1 or 2 of these titles, often deviating from exclusively making cat-based games, or shaking up that more minimalist style. I think my favorite title of any of these is Looking for Cats in a Badly Drawn City. Well, at least they're honest. And while I'm more critical of these games taking a cookie-cutter approach, there are still loads of devs making exceptional and unique hidden object titles, with and without cats. While I have no involvement in its production, I want to hype up Matt Rojak's Hidden Cats and Dogs. He's another Flash developer, something very near and dear to my heart, primarily known for epic battle fantasy. He started his own hidden object game a little over a year ago, ahead of all of this really blowing up. His game is all hand-painted with 80 beautifully crafted levels, many interactive elements to play around with, multiple game modes, and promising over 20 hours of gameplay. It looks spectacular and will hopefully stand out among the crowd. If anything, I'm hoping that this entire trend just continues to give him a lift up in the algorithm. There's no date for that game yet, but I'm genuinely very excited to see Matt's take on the genre. While this whole video is somewhat of a rant, I'm actually not that upset over any of this. These games are mostly free, and if they're paid, they're available for cheap. Sure, I think using copy and paste store formats is pretty lazy, and kinda communicates to everyone that you're not putting that much effort into these, but the developers aren't really misrepresenting what they're offering, and users seem happy enough to play them. I don't think this should be stopped, or in any way be made not allowed. If someone wants to pay Steam $1,000 a year to release the same hidden cat game over and over again, then I don't really care. But by my count, there are about 40 of these minimalist hidden cat games already dated for 2024, and who knows how many that use this style without featuring cats. I started counting them up and I just couldn't handle it. So don't expect this trend to tail off anytime soon. If anything, it's continuing to ramp up. In the last few years, we've seen 1,000 developers make Vampire Survivor clones, and these games are far easier to produce than that. If they're going to continue to perform well, developers are going to continue to make them. Instead, I think this trend should inform a much needed change on Steam. With only those 10 new and trending spots available on the front page, I'd prefer that paid and free games not be made to compete with one another. That's the solution the mobile game market eventually took on. Steam seems kinda behind the times by just dumping everything into one place like this. Free games are not made with the same motives, nor are they intended for the same audience. Indie hits still break out all the time, but today, as I'm recording this, 4 out of 10 slots are occupied by free games, and 2 of those 4 are of hidden cats. You can see how maybe that's a bit of a problem. As this trend continues to grow through the year, expect more and more indies to be completely drowned out on their release days. Obviously, this is a bit of a sore spot for me now, seeing Lucas's beautiful indie passion project of the last decade needing to compete with these titles not once but twice. It's not especially fair, and if it's left unaddressed for much longer, I think it could dramatically shift Steam in a direction that Valve definitely doesn't want. If you want to show some love to a wonderful indie developer creating original titles, please check out the William and Sly series. Those original 2 games were revamped and made available in that free collection. You can go and play that now, maybe leave a review, that would really help out, and the full paid sequel will be discounted until March 4th as a part of its launch week, so now would be a great time to check that out. These games are open-world, cozy, collect-a-thon-y, Metroidvania-esque platformers. There's no enemies or health bar. It's entirely designed to be a casual experience, so I think it will genuinely appeal to people who like these hidden cat games, as well as many others out there just looking for that relaxed, cozy experience. I'll include links to both William and Sly and Matt's Hidden Cats and Dogs down below so you can wishlist and/or buy any of those that appeal to you. And now I'm interested to hear your take on it. How often do you play free games on Steam? Have you noticed this growing trend? Do you have any favorite hidden object games, cats or otherwise? I can't believe I thought this was going to be like a 5-minute long video. When will I learn? And hey, did you remember to keep an eye out for those logos? How many did you find? It's hard to tell if I was a little too sneaky with some of them maybe. But thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.